All right, hi everyone, welcome to Marine Mondays. My name is Kyle Troy. I am the biologist for the Marine Education Center in Harbor Island Park in the village of Mamaroneck. So welcome. As some of you guys might know, we base our Marine Mondays on the Long Island Sound ecosystem. So out there, if I ask a question, you could answer at home with your friends or family, or you could write it in. The comments do come in a little slow, but you could still write it in or ask questions as we go, and I'll answer when I get them. So my first question is, does anybody out there know what an estuary is? What we've been talking about, what this Long Island Sound is? Give you guys a couple seconds. So the Long Island Sound is an estuary. That means it's salt and freshwater. And here in Mamaroneck, our freshwater source is the Mamaroneck River, and then our saltwater source for the sound is the Atlantic Ocean. So that means there's a lot of different animals that can live here and come by and stop over on their migrations and nest here. If you see the plants behind me, this is our cordgrass right here. Big nesting site for a lot of birds. A lot of fish use it as habitat. And also the animals that we're talking about today are very important to these grasses, because grasses are very important to the sound. Just looks like grass, but they're very important to the sound. So today we're talking about bivalves, which is a big word, but I want to see if anybody out there can tell me what a mollusk is. So today we're talking about these kind of mollusks, the bivalves. So bivalves means two. So it has two shells. So it opens and closes like this. So we're going to be talking about a couple different ones of these, and I'll ask you as we go what they're called if you know. But there's also these kind of mollusks. Anybody ever seen one of these before? So these move a lot more than the bivalves that we're going to be talking about today. These are univalves, which means one shell. So this is our univalve mollusk, one shell. And this is our whelk. It's a sea snail. So a lot of you guys probably have picked it up and listened to the ocean. So this is the animal's old shell. And these guys start out really, really tiny. And you could kind of tell their age in a lot of them by how many of those twists you have. So they start out very tiny, like the top of that, and then grow, just like your nails grow, they grow really big. So again, you can answer at home or ask questions as we go, and I'll get to them once they get there. So this is a big one we'll be talking about today, and I have a real one that I dug up. So if I'm going to turn you around and let you see where we're sitting. So this is our low tide. So there's a lot of different animals that live down here. And you can't see them. You could probably see some seaweed, different seaweeds down there. There's a lot of different animals that live right here in our low tide area. And the big one we're talking about today, I already dug up earlier. Let me turn you back around. So you can't see the animals that live down here. And if you guys ever come down to the Marine Center and do one of my programs with me, we will do this where we'll get these guys. Does anyone at home know what these are? Doesn't look like much. Let's put it closer. You can answer with your friends or family or write it in. So this is a ribbed mussel. And these are all over the place down here. And they live down in the mud that I just showed you guys. And these are our bivalve mollusks. So a lot of people probably at home are saying seashell. So you're going to find these all around. Does anyone know what kind of animal eats these? Let's see if anybody at home knows. What kind of animal eats these these, because you're going to find these all around the beach. And you'll find them if you walk down here in Harbor Island Park. So there's a lot of animals that eat them. So you'll find their old shell like these everywhere. They'll look like that. So if you guys, some of you guys are probably new. So if you're ever in the center, you'll see something we talked about last week, our sea star, or like some of you guys call it, the starfish, but we know it's not a fish, so we call it a sea star. So our sea stars will eat these mussels, or crabs, birds, all types of things eat these. So you'll find their old shell everywhere. So a lot of people just think they're shells, but the animal makes them. Like you grow your bones and your nails, they grow that shell. And with the ribbed mussel, if you look really closely, you can see little ribs, little ridges all over it. Kind of looks like lines down it. That's why it's called a ribbed mussel. And I'm gonna open them up for you guys. And I'll feed these guys to the tanks. If some of you guys have never been down to the Marine Center, I have tanks that are filled with different animals from the sound here. And they eat these, like my spider crabs. So if you look inside, you're gonna see again, it's two-shelled. It's our bivalve. Kind of looks gross in there, right? But if you look closely, it has gills. This one I broke open a little bad. So this guy, a lot of our animals here eat. And I'll feed him to the animals in the center. So a cool thing about a ribbed mussel is that the cool thing about the ribbed mussel is if you see those ribs, like I showed you, those lines looking down, you could tell its age by the ribs in the mussel. It's a little more complicated than just counting those ribs, but you could tell them if you worked really hard at it. So, and this guy is something called a filter feeder. So what they eat, a lot of things eat them. A lot of things eat them. Hold on 1 second, we have a loud walker. Is this a live show? So there's something called filter feeders. Does anyone out there know what a filter feeder is? So a lot of animals eat them, but they have to eat too. So if you come down here at low tide, just like I'm at low tide right now where I find these guys, you'll see them sticking out. So they'll open up their shell when it's high tide and filter the water. So it takes little algae or other particles out of the water and eats it. So these guys you'll see everywhere, and they're very important to that grass that I talked to you, that cord grass back there. They're also very important to the cleaning of the water. So they keep it clear and take a lot of those toxins from bad stuff that comes into the water and stores it. It's very cool, and you'll learn a lot more about these guys. They don't look like much, but they're very important to the center, to the Long Island Sound. But if you come to the center, you'll learn a lot more about these guys. So there's also this type of mussel that lives in the Sound. Looks very similar. Different shell shape though, right? What else is different? So they're different colors, they're different textures. This one's a blue mussel, and if you've ever feeling blue mussel, they're a lot smoother than our ribbed mussel. So the blue mussels also live in a different type of area. The ribbed mussels live down in the mud here, but the blue mussel likes to live on docks or pilings or other stationary objects. So again, those are two bivalve, which means two shell, and then this is another important bivalve to the Sound. Who out there can tell me what that is? So these live deep down, and sometimes if you're walking on the beach, you might feel some of these types of animals squirting up at you. So these are two different ones, but let's see if anybody out there, again, the comments either don't come through or come through very slowly, so you could answer at home. So we have our quahoag, which a lot of you guys find, and then this one is a soft-shelled clam. So these are both clams, and again, two-shelled animals. That's why they're bivalves. So you'll walk around the beach and you'll find them a lot. They're old shells a lot, like this. These are old because, does anyone out there know what eats these? Let's see if anybody, besides us, a lot of people like to eat these. But what other animals like to eat these? So you'll find the gulls, the seagulls, a lot of different gulls down here, like to dig them up, and then you'll see them fly up, drop it, so it cracks open, and then they'll eat it. So gulls love to eat these. Another reason why we shouldn't feed the gulls other food, because they keep these guys under check. Everything has a purpose. So you have our soft-shelled clam, which you'll find everywhere, and these ones squirt up at you a lot on the beach, and our quahoag. So again, our two shells. That's why they're called bivalves. And let's see at home our last one, our last bivalve that's important to the sound here. Anyone know what this is? And these in the harbor here, we have a couple of reefs of these. So these ones at low tide, you'll see in big reefs. So these are oysters. So these ones live all around here, and these are extremely important to filtering the water. They're also filter feeders, and they live in big reefs, where our rib mussel down here lives in the mud. They build structures as well. They have something called byssal threads that help them attach. These guys attach to different oysters. They use themselves as their attachers. So this is our oyster, another bivalve. So I'm gonna go back through. Can anyone out there remember what this kind of mollusk is? Not the one we're really talking about today, but it has one shell. So it's a univalve, one shell. And this is our whelk. But then we have this guy. Let's remember what that is. Very important. The blue mussel that we talked about earlier is different to this guy in a lot of ways, not just by size and shape and where it lives. More people like us, other animals, eat both, but we usually only eat this guy. So this guy's very tough and holds in a lot of that organic bacteria. So it doesn't taste as good. So this is our ribbed mussel, right? Because it has those ribs all along it. And then our blue mussel. So two really important mollusks to the sound here. And then we have our, let's see, two of these. You can yell at home what these are. These are our clams, our quahoag, or soft-shelled clam. And again, you'll find these guys all over the beach. They're not just seashells. They're actually an animal that makes them. And a lot of these animals, you can tell their age by the lines or the ribs on their shell. It takes a little more time and effort than just counting them, but these are our two clams that are important to the sound. Important in a lot of ways. And then our last one that builds those big reefs. So this is our oyster. And you'll see a lot of birds eating these, like an oyster catcher, which are very loud, have a big orange bill, and they come around in the summer. Another important migratory bird that enters the sound and uses it as its home for a little while. So that's today's show on our bivalves. So very important animals to the sound. and to our very important grass here, those ribbed mussels that we opened up, very important to the structure of the grass and giving them a home. So everyone at home, you could come down to the center and come to one of my programs and learn a lot more about a lot of these animals and different animals. And I hope to see you guys soon. I'll be open hopefully past November. We will see. It's a little up in the air right now. But I hope everyone's staying safe out there, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.